هروكو كسلايد شو كان من بابلين سلايد كاني محاضرة بنشما ما باو نكرت لبري وروجا فريانا كوتي طبعا كان سلايد شي كمان ما وكلا سري دينا زور بيزوري همو ما كفرت مراجعي كسريع أكينو بيكو we're gonna start the last slide together. If you remember, please, whenever you haven't understand anything, directly open your mic or raise your hand. Okay, I will give you a chance to ask me whatever you want. At first, I will start in English, then I will translate it if you need them. Okay, because we did this before. We covered the first slide, which was about the use of that tense. We said basically we need to, or we must, let's say, use past simple whenever we are talking about a completed action. We don't care about that action when happened, okay, or where happened. That does not matter. The case is, or the point is, or the aim is, use that tense with all the kind of action that happened before or completed before I know. That's all about the first slide, which is about the use of that. And then we covered the first style, how we are using or how we are making or having a kind of simple sentence by one of the verb to be. I mean, by using was where. We covered both. We said there is a quite difference between using these verb to be's. Was can be used only with this group of pronouns, like I was, she was, he was, or it was. And where can be used only with this kind of group of pronouns. We were, you were, or they were, or two persons' name. Or here we can say one person's name, okay? If we want to change any sentence that contain was or were into negative, it's quite easy. You can say wasn't in the short form or was not in the long form or negative part, okay? Same thing here for were, weren't in short form and were not in long form while we are changing affirmative sentence into negative. For question is the same thing. We don't need any help. We don't need it. Even if you use it, will be correct. But basically, it's better to do not use them, okay? Because you have was, were in your sentence. So you don't need to ask help, all right? Just put was or were in the beginning. There will be question form, all right? Just look at these kind of simple examples. I was at the park. I wasn't at the park. It's negative part. Or I was not at the park. For the question part was about, was I at the park? Or were you at the park? So here is the other examples for where as well, okay? The other parts we just continued about whenever there is not verb to be in our sentences. We said we have two types of verb. Sometimes we can use or we can say or mention any kind of action that happened and finished recently. All right, so we have to mention them or use them in the past form. But there is a quite difference between these two types of verbs. We have the first group of verbs, we call them regular verbs. Okay, these kind of, let's say we can say normal verbs. Why we call them normal or why we call them regular verbs? Because whenever we change them for past form, they don't need anything. They will never change. They just need to add ed or sometimes d whenever the verb has e. Okay, just like these kind of examples, play, played, listen, listened, type, typed. So here I have type, right? And then I just add D for it because I don't need ED. It already has E. Also love. I have E, loved. That's it. This was about the regular verbs. Irregular verbs is the second type of verbs. Why we call them irregular verbs, okay? Because whenever we change them into past form, they will never take ED. Never, ever. They will change. Also, we have this list verbs. These are the, let's say, the double irregular verbs. It means whenever we change them into past, they will never change their form. They will stay as it is. Put, cut, or said, or caused, or hate, or hurt. We have a lot, but these are the most common ones, okay? We need these kind of verbs, basically. So these are the verbs that they will never change in past and present. They are the same, they are stay in the same form, okay? The other group, which is we call them regular verbs, irregular verbs. It means those verbs that they will never take ed and they will not stay as their base form. They will change. For example, see. If I change see into the past form, it will be so. Build, built. Go, went. Or did, for do. Or rose, rise. Or rise, rose. Am and is, whenever we change them into past, they will be was, and also are will be were. All right, these are the verb to be's basically. As I told you even on Thursday, I said the number of subject doesn't affect the verb to be, let's say, or even the irregular verbs. If I have 10 people, I can say Lena and Huda saw a nice car yesterday, or they saw a nice movie last night. So we are two persons there, or we are two person as a subject. So it doesn't affect anything about the verb. It means irregular verbs, or even this one, they don't care about the number of subject, whether you have he, she, or the other group, I, we, you, they, we don't have problem. Just change the verb into past form and that's it, okay? So this was about that slide. Also, we talked about a list. These are a kind of example for regular verbs. Let's say normal verbs. Whenever we change it into simple past or past simple, they need only one ed or maybe d. See? They have letter E, so they will need only D to be added to change it from present into past. This was about a kind of regular verbs. This one about 15 most common verbs for irregular one, I mean irregular groups. Those verbs that whenever we change them into past, they will never take ED, they have to change. Okay, see, I don't have ED, awake, awoke. Or B, it maybe was or were. It depends on the sentence, or let's say the subject, you know this one. Buy, bought, catch, caught, choose, chose, okay, dream, dreamt. See, the spell is only changed for T and that's it. This slide was also about the 100 most common irregular verbs, also about the irregular one. They will change, they will never take ED, okay? Also, we talked about that slide, which is whenever we don't have was, where in our sentence, how we are changing the sentence into negative. I don't have was to say wasn't for negative, or was she or was he into question. Even I don't have where. I have a sentence that contain one of the verb. For example, I have the sentence, we watched the news last night. I don't have was or where to say we wasn't or we weren't. Yes? So what I have to do in that case, you have only one way. Okay, use did or didn't to make it negative or question. We don't care about the type of verbs. I have regular verbs because it has ed, and I have irregular verb because the verb changed. They went, they didn't go. We watched, we didn't watch. She read, she didn't read. This one is past, we have to say she read the book, by the way, because the pronunciation of the word is only changed. The spell is the same, but the pronunciation gonna change. Read, read in past. Okay, she read the book, she didn't read the book. Or let's say I learned Spanish or I learned Arabic language last summer. I didn't learn Arabic or Spanish last summer. We bought a new car. We didn't buy a new car. So here is the way to make sentence into negative whenever there is only verb in past form in your sentences, okay? I didn't do the exam, Miss Lena, on Thursday because I was out or because I was busy, okay? See, I didn't do the exam or I didn't do the test. For the question style also is the same. We need to use did because we don't have any verb to be, we need help. So here we have did can help us whenever we have past form sentence. Like we watched the news, we didn't watch the news. Did we watch the news? They went to the party yesterday. They didn't go to the party yesterday, or did they go to the party yesterday? So here is the question style also. And also I told you this point, did is one of the auxiliary, let's say, or helping verb that they don't, like, let's say it didn't care about the number of subject. Whenever you have she, you can say she did, he did, it did, okay, or she didn't, or he didn't, or it didn't. Same thing for the second group. We didn't, or they didn't, or Ahmed and Muhammad didn't. I mean, the subject doesn't affect the auxiliaries. Did can be used with all the kind of pronouns. Is that clear? The last point that is really important in that slide is never put ed with the verb, or never write the verb with ed after didn't or after did. The verb should be always in base form or root form after didn't or did. Okay? Verb must be always base form. Good. So here is was like all kind of important point that it was really necessary for you to do a kind of revision before starting the reading part. Now we are going to have the next slide. The next slide was about how we change in sentence into negative whenever there is a different kind of pronoun in the beginning. See, I just told you even before, we can write did not in this way. We can use didn't in the short form. It's fine. And it's correct, okay? And you are free to choose or to use whatever you want. But the point is, after did not or didn't, the verb should be always in the base form of the verb. يعني صيغة أصلية كبيرة, okay? مثلا, didn't live, not didn't lived. Or let's say, didn't buy, not didn't bought. Didn't hurt, because hurt is double irregular verb. They will never change. They will stay as it is. So it doesn't change to return it to the base form. So it will be stay as it is. So we will use the same hurt. Okay? Or did can be used with all the pronouns. See, I have he did, she did, it did, or I did, or we did, or you did, and they did. Or even one person is named, Lana did, or Muhammad did, or Lana and Muhammad did. It means whenever we have two persons named as a subject. She lived in London. She didn't live in London. See, I removed or I delete D here because I need the base form of live. For question, did she live in London? Here is the short answer. Yes, she did, or no, she didn't. That's it. Other examples for such a kind of irregular verbs, we have this is like this example. She bought a new dress last night. She bought, right? She didn't buy a new dress last night. Never say she didn't bought. It will be wrong. Or Ahmed hurt himself. This sentence is fast, okay? It's better to mention time expressions even at the end, like Ahmed hurt himself 2 hours ago, or last night, or last week. Okay, so Ahmed didn't hurt himself. Hurt and hurt, never change, because that verb is double irregular. Before moving to the next slide, I saw some students, they raised their hand. So let me give chance to Muhammad Hussein. Yes, Muhammad, do you have any question? ها 100 محمد يبتقى 100% سؤالي كردو يمتى نحط was السؤال هلا يمتى نحدد شوفي 100 إذا عندنا أي جملة بداخل الجملة عندنا was ولا where بداخل الجملة يعني مثلا عندنا هاي الجملة شوفي I was at the park أوكي أنا عندي was so ما أقدر نستخدم did بداخل هاي الجملة وإذا نحن استخدمنا ما راح تكون جواب غلط بس ضروري إذا عندنا verb to be هدول نحن بنسميها verb to be أوكي so ما راح نحتاج نستخدم did بداخل هاي الجملة إذا عندنا so أكو طريقة ثانية خلينا نقول إذا عندنا هيك طريقة الجملة مثلا عندنا فعل أساسي بداخل الجملة مثلا live, study, watch, listen عندنا هواية الأفعال صح؟ إذا عندنا أي فعل أساسي بداخل الجملة بهيك طريقة ما عندنا was or were بداخل الجملة so لازم نحن نستخدم did بطريقة النفي للنيجاتيف وبطريقة السؤال did من بداية الجملة أوكي هيك الطريقة يعني 100 هلا واضح؟
ايه مسلينا واضح كثير
تمام.
بس يعني قصدي يعني هو رح يكون مكتوب وازوير مو انه نحن رح نكتبه
إيه طبعا
إيه. انا لهيك تخربطت انه هلا مثلا شي ليفت ان لندن اكيد رح نشيل دي رح نكتب شي ديت لايف ليف ان لندن ما
تمام إيه هيك الطريقة لأنه ما عندنا was بداخل الجملة
إيه.
لازم نستخدم did للنيجاتيف did للسؤال إذا أي حدا يسألك مشان غيري هاي الجملة للنفي ولا للسؤال
ايه
بس عندنا هاي الطريقة
بس انه ايه قلت انه فكرت انه نحن رح نكتب وازو وين رح يكون مكتوب هو لحال
تمام بالضبط هلا واضح؟
ايه واضح شكرا مسلينا
اهلا خلينا نشوف اذا اكو سؤال ثاني
أنا سليمة
نعم جاردنيا
أهلا أنا سليمة عفوا أنا سليمة بس عندنا بالسؤال لما نسأل الماضي البسيط لازم ما يكون موجود فعل بالماضي صح؟ يعني لايف ما يصير نقول لايف لازم لايف
مثلا إذا غيرنا الجملة الأساسي مثلا جملة
نعم.
بالنسبة للنيجاتيف إذا استخدمنا did ورا didn't لازم الفعل تكون بالصيغة الأصلي.
نعم.
إيه تمام طبعا. أنا كتبت من هنا
يعني
did not or didn't
يعني did لما
plus
تكون في
base
الجملة
form of the يعني الصيغة الأصلي.
تمام.
base form يعني الصيغة الأصلي الفعل يعني الفعل المجرد.
إيه.
تمام يعني بدون إيدي وبدون أي متغير. مثلا عندنا أفعال ثانية مجموعة ثانية مجموعة الخاص خلينا نقول ولا irregular. أوكي هدول ما نحتاج تستخدمون إيدي وياهم إذا بدنا نغير المضارع من المضارع للماضي لأنه هن عم تتغيرون. عندنا صيغة الخاص. أوكي مثلا باي راح تكون بوت بالماضي هاي المضارع وهاي الماضي.
يعني نكون الفعل مجرد خالي من الإضافة.
طبعا خالي من الإضافة طبعا.
يعني نقدر نقول did the play basketball ما يصير نقول did the played.
of course is wrong. طبعا راح تكون جواب غلط. إيه
شكرا ستينا.
أهلين فهمتي. سؤال محمد حسين اسمعيني. أوكي عندنا كيجان. يس كيجان يا كيجان فارس أو شادي قادر.
نعم أنت.
يس محمد أنت رفعت إيدك عندك سؤال؟
لا مامتا.
لا قبل هاي.
تمام يلا خلي lower hand. يس كيجان
مامتا
يا
جان. مامتا والله من إكوتاي حساك سأنتك. ليسني كم هاي كم محاضرة تختار معك؟
إيه لسر present simple.
بلى.
إيه.
الأخوة ويهينك هبو يعني ملاحظيك هبو بدرس تبني السؤال كان.
إيه.
what when who. لقل دودة فكبكار هات ليك أنا قشته.
لتشكاتك دودز بكاري يعني لطريقة سؤالة. مثلا أمر استيمان هي مسراوة she helps her mom. أوكي طبعا رستكيتو أبو موضوعي present ربطي بمحاضري أمر مانيا بلا ما دام سؤالة هي مشكلة هركاتك رستكيتو بشي يا بهي يا بقت يا ناوي يكج يا ناوي يكو دستي بكتبو تو ناتشاري بس دست بكار بهني إتر أجر بيكي بنيجاتيف يا بيكي بس سؤال بس بوت هي أو بكار بهني مثلا ألم كيجان helps her mom. كيجان يا رمتي دايكي كاتي كي كم بنيجاتيف أبي بلم كيجان doesn't help her mom. كيجان يا رمتي دايكي نايت أجر مش بيبلم بيكم بس سؤال ألم does كيجان help her mom. يا ألين she does يا ألين no she doesn't. ترى كاتب ببي موقفك إيتو يا رمتي إيه يا رمتي ناي بوينتك شيء لدواي دزوا لحالتي نيجاتيف كرمتايان سؤالك يا إيه سي فيربك بكار من هنا خم أبينا تشاري بلم لرستي أريكا يعني affirmative كا أبينا تشاري بلين كيجان helps her mom helps لقل إيسا وايا شكا كيجان ناوية كسا أتوانا بلم شيء أتوانا بلم كيجان لحالتي قورين بو نيجاتيف كو question كا تو بس دز بكاري هني شكا أما قانونا لبري كيجان مان هي إذا أجر كيجان ناوي كتري بوزيا كم بلم كيجان أن لينا أو كاتا ناوي دو كسمان هي أو كاتا أبي دو بكار بهني أوكي تمام. إذا واضح أقول لكم.
كان خوش إذا أولا واضح ما مصابت what when بكار هاتبو لقل دستو دو فكرابو بالسؤال يعني من شكاتك بإذا أنا مدوكي لقل بكار بينهم ينبقى
إذا واضح أما أخيرته صار شعر زايد ولا pronoun كان أجر وجبية كم pronoun كان ما نهبو وتا third person singular pronoun كان ما نهبو he she it يا ناوي يكتش يا ناوي يكر أو كاتا دز بكاره يعني بأكيدي ببيجي مشكلة. أجر مجموعة يدو ما نهبو وتا مجموعة pronoun جمع كان وكو I we you they يا ناوي دو بس لسرتاوا أو كاتا إلا دو بكاريه ببيجي مشكلة يعني زور بأكيدي إلا دو بكاريه. Don't teach negative. Welcome. That's question.
That's a kind of question.
Welcome. Shadiya.
Hi teacher.
Hi honey.
من برسالك مهبو بقولنا إسرائيل I saw a movie yesterday. لم كاتك كي برسالة كلا خدي خودك يا عيك كي بيو ومن علي did I see the movie yesterday يعني علي
did you see بأرزي خدي سرقة أما الامتحان أم قران كاريانا زور تركيزك مثلا من جملة كم يا بتو ألم I saw a movie yesterday change it into question تقولوا كاتها حري تلبي ومن بنوسي did I see a movie yesterday or did you see a movie yesterday هردو كي راسنا ناتونا مدرجة لو تلبي مش كان بهردو طريقة كسؤالك يعني لخو معني يعني كسيتي برامبر
يعني أسيب بهالشوازة
طبعا تو أقر سؤال لخوت كجاري والله أرى من دون سيري أو فيلم منكر يعني أرى من دون سيري أو شتنكر بوي بيرد شوتو أكيد كيتو بو تأكيد كرنا ولا كان شخص يخوته
يعني بهدو شو
بهردو شيء كراسة والله إما عادة كبرسال لاشتغل كين بو تأكيد ولا كسي كبر عم بديكين والله بهردو طريقي سؤالك كراسة والله
خلص دست خوش به زور سپاس
welcome كيجان يس كيجان
يعني والله ماما صابير
مشكلة جارة هتا ران توزي في أشياء مشكلة هركاتك بسرعة أنها lower hand it's okay honey عشان no more question ما عندكم أي سؤال ثاني كل شيء واضح تمام okay so let's move to the other slide yeah it was this one also there are those kind of verbs that they will never change أما لستي أو فعلانية بابنية أفعلانية مجموعي كزور كم ما راح تغيرون بالزمن المضارع أو بالزمن الماضي عندنا نفس الصيغة أوكي مثلا beat or bet cost cut fit hit hurt put and quit or shut okay now let's start the reading part okay let's say the new part we have this text in past simple see Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. Okay, so this is about the reading part. Whenever there is a text in past simple, or let's say in past form, you will look at many different styles of examples, or let's say sentence that is written in past simple. Is about a kind of information, a kind of school trip, or some kind of people they went somewhere. Okay, then they ask some question about 8 questions. These questions about true and false. يعني إذا هاي العبارة ولا خلينا نقول إذا هاي الجملة صحيح نحن رح نكتب T يعني true يعني صحيح false يعني غلط أوكي true يعني صحيح يعني راسته و false يعني غلط كم خوش نحط أي غلط بكرتي أوكي if أتواني بتربين يوكو حرف يتمي هردو كلمة هو آسان تربونه يعني سريع تربوني طريقي جوابانه حتى لامتحان Okay, so true and false about such a kind of question. Now let's start. Who would like to be the first one? Before starting, I'm going to read it twice for you. I will read it twice, or let's say 2 times for you, just to help you to be more clear. Some kind of student, they may need help. Share the screen again. Can you see my screen right now? Okay. Is it okay? Yes. Read the text about Brian and Annie. See, we have 2 names, but actually people are free how to read the names. Okay, Brian and Annie. Brian and Annie, sorry, let me change. Okay. Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in 2 groups. They were together on some days, but on other days they weren't. It means in some days they were together, in some other days they weren't, they were alone, okay? On Monday, Annie was at the Washington Monument. And Brian was at the National Zoological Park. Okay. On Tuesday, they were together at the White House. So this one is the White House, or this one. What do you think? I think this one, isn't it? White House in America. Okay, it's very popular. Like everybody knows. Once we say White House, everybody knows where is this place. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum on Thursday. Then, on Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol, and Brian was at the Washington Monument. Okay, so it means these 2 students, they were somewhere together. It was a kind of school visit. was about last week. Like last week, these two students went on a school visit and they visited some kind of different places, okay? Also, in some days they were together, in some other days they weren't. Is that clear? Once we start to read it, we will translate the text together, okay? Now let's see who would like to be the first one to read the text for us. I have Afyan. Yes, Afyan, you can start.
Hello, teacher.
Hello.
Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on some days, but on other days they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington Monument and Brian was at the National Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together at the White House. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum on Thursday. Then on Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol, and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Well done. Very good. Could you translate the text for us?
Kurdish or Arabic?
As you like. Which one would you like? Arabic or Kurdish?
I don't know. I will try to do both of them.
Let's see.
Brian and Annie were in Washington DC. Brian وأنا لواشنطن دي سي بون. Brian and Annie كانوا في Washington DC on a school visit last week لسردانكي كتابخانة دا قشتي كتابخانة دا لحفتي بيشودا إلى زيارة بعربية كان كم بفنيم
مشكلة يلا
أوكي أوان لدو جروب هابون أوان بيكو بون لهني روجا وبالعم لهني روجي تردان نخير لروجي دوشمدا أنا لروجي دوشمدا أنا ولا واشنطن مونومنتي واشنطن بو بكردي مونومنتي هربي علي
وش هالي مونومنت وكو أوي مونومنت كي هلا بجك بلا
مايك سيتي
Yeah, well, and
Brian is the National Zoological Park. Parki zoologically
نوتي أجلاني نزلتي
بله لروجي سيشن مدى أوان هردو كان لكوشكي ستيبون.
بيكو.
جاءني ل
National Zoological Park.
أجلاني
بخشي أجلان بو بله لروجي
چهارشنبه.
چهارشنبه بله
وبراين ل
The United States Capitol
پایتختی United States بو هردو كيشيان لروجي جمعة كوابون ل National Air and Space هوادا وازم هي بقشتي أسمانيا
بله National Air and Space Museum
بله دواتر لروجي جمعة دا أنا ل United States Capitol بو وبراينج ل Washington Monument.
Okay. بس لراك ألين ل Brian was at the United States Capitol ما بس دي أوه كلا بناي كونغرس الأمريكا بنقل بايتختي أمريكا شكل كابيتول أو جوازة بقو أو يتريان بقى
وقت بايتخت الكونغرس
لا كونغرس ببالي لا United States Capitol أبا جوازة أوكي كلمة that's خوش well done. Who else? I have خانم. Yes خانم go ahead.
Hi miss.
Hi honey.
بخوي نمنا. You can read it?
Yeah, you can read.
Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on some days, but on other days they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington Monument. Washington Monument. And Brian was at the National Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together at the White House. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum on Thursday. Then on Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Well done.
بس I'll say the meaning of monument بالعربي.
monument بالعربي يعني بتجمعنا متحف.
أيوة.
مثل المتحف بالضبط، مو مثل كذا؟
ميوزيوم
هاي الموجودة
ميوزيوم متحف. لا
ميوزيوم متحف.
نصب.
تمام نصب. نصب تمام. اوكي. هلا راح ترجمها بالعربية، راح تكون كلش واضح لكم. اوكي. عندنا شادي. يس شادي.
Hi teacher.
Hi Shadi.
Reading this.
Yeah, you can read it now.
Okay, I'll answer this question.
No, let's read it, and the questions are quite easy. Okay. Yeah,
okay.
Let's read it, and we're gonna continue.
Okay, Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on Sundays, but on other days they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington Monument. Monument, and Brian was at the National Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together at the White House. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum on Thursday. Then on Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol, and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Well done, very good.
Thank you.
Who else? I have, thank you, Shadi. I have Suzanne. Yes, Suzanne.
Hi, teacher.
Hi, honey.
Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on Sundays. But on the other days, they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington Monument. Washington Monument. And Brian was at the National Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together at the White House. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United
States
Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum on Thursday. Then on Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Thank you so much. Well done. Perfect. Then I have Shinyan. Thank you, Susan. Yes, Shinyan.
Hi, teacher.
Hi.
Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on Sundays, but on another days, they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington Monument, and Brian was at. Brian.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Well done, Shania. Muhammad Hussein. So from now on, you have to take care about the screen. Yeah, be careful. Follow your friends, because directly I will stop somebody and will choose someone else. You have to know where was she or where was he, because I stopped مثلا Shinyan. Was it Shinyan? I think, yeah. Till here, she read the Washington Monument. So now you can continue, Muhammad, again from this part. And Brian. Yes, Muhammad, go ahead. Brian was at the National.
Brian and Danny were Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week.
No,
they were
Muhammad.
two groups.
No. You have to start from here. Your friend
and Brian
read.
was that?
Yeah, because I stopped Shinyan here, so you have to continue from that part.
Okay.
هي قرأت حتى من هنا وأنت لازم بلشي من هاي المقطع. يلا.
Okay. And Brian was at National Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together at the White House. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday.
سيكا أمدي أبي موجود ببلام سايلنت أوكي. Wednesday هاي الحرف راح تكون silent. Wednesday هاي الغلط. Wednesday.
Okay.
تمام.
Wednesday and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum. On Thursday, on Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Monument. Come on. Yeah. Very good. Well done, Mohammed. Then I have Kalsoom.
Hello.
Yes, Kalsoom. Yes.
Brian and Anna were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on Sunday, but on other day they weren't. On Monday.
Kalsoom Jan. Maleza. بوهيش كاملة وشاني كي خينتو كبتي ايشي تيا اوكي زمان بخبيني هردو دان فهو بابكينا من حالي صوتك كان من خوين او كاتا زور تركيز اكن لسر اوانك بس لإنستا وما دمواكي مجالي اوتانا مفنو بكن لحر شونك وستان مين غلطك موراس كديتو زور تركيز بخير ساري اوكي قولي من بليف ذي قد مال زي شكوه تلفظي غلطة صوتي غلطة شكوه صوت الانجليش عني بوشيوي اوكي قولكم
بليف ذي
أبي ذي واتا زمان أخي تبيني هردو دامت بوي صوت راسك هدروس بي أجر زمان لنا أبي دم دابخي أبي بزي بس يكتو زمان خي بيني هردو دانا أبي بذي أكو ذي عربي وايا they yeah together يلا that's good.
On Monday Anna was at the Washington Monument. And Brian was at the National Zoological Park.
At the National Zoological Park. أما زي كتشن واضحة بلام أما أبي بلي the National. Why? Okay.
On Tuesday they were together at the White House.
That's خوش. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well done. I think Suzanne read it. We have Akram. Yes, Akram. And then we have Hind. Yes, Akram, you can start from here.
Yes.
Annie was?
Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together at the National Air and
Space Museum.
Space Museum. On Thursday, then on a Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol, and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Thank you so much. Well done, Akram. Yes, Hind, you can start.
Yes, teacher. Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. On a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on some days, but on other days they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington Monument, and Brian was at the National
Zoological Park. Yes.
Zoological Park. On Thursday, they were together.
On Tuesday. لا wait Thursday يعني يوم الخميس. هاي الخميس. Thursday. Tuesday يعني يوم الثلاثاء. Okay. Tuesday.
They were together at the White House. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum.
Air and Space Museum. Air, not air.
air.
لا هاي الغلط air.
Air.
تمام.
And Space Museum on Thursday. Then on Friday.
يعني يوم الجمعة.
Annie was at the United States capital, and Brian was at the Washington monument.
تمام. Thank you so much, Hilgan. Well done. I have Rohlat. Yes, Rohlat.
Yes.
You can start.
Brian and Annie is in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on some days, but on other day they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington monument and Brain was at the National
Zoological Park.
Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together at the with the house.
White House.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yes.
Thank you, honey. Thank you, Rohlat. Thank you so much. Well done. Then we have Shahid or Mir or Ahmed.
Does this become?
Yes, Mir. Yes, you can start.
لا أول this become يعني.
No, she read till White House, so you're gonna continue from that part here.
Anna was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum on Thursday. Then Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol, and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Thank you. Well done.
You're welcome.
Then I have Ahmed Ayad or yes, Hendren.
يلا. Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together they were together on some days, but on other days
but on other days
they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington monument and Brian was at the National Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together at the White House.
Thank you, Hendren. Thank you so much. Well done. Ajin? Yes, Ajin.
Good afternoon, teacher.
Good afternoon, Ajin. You can start from that part, honey.
Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States Capitol. They were together at the National Air and Space Museum on Thursday. Then on Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol, and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Thank you.
You're welcome, teacher.
I have Gardnia.
Yes, teacher. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, honey. You can start from the beginning.
Yes. Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on some days, but on other days they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington monument, and Brian was at the National Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together.
They were. لأنه عندنا ذا هاي المختلف هاي الذا بس هاي لازم نسميها مثل شنو يعني نقرأها مثل they هيك
نعم
correct
تمام.
تمام
They
ايه طبعا
were together at the White House.
it's not they were together at the
At
White House okay it
the White House.
هاي شيء ثاني مثل ال
White House.
ضمائر تمام
نعم. Annie
thank you
was at
thank you
okay.
thank you thank you Gardenia well done أحمد آيات آكار فاتح
Yes, hi teacher.
لانا هاي قبس شادي وردة أمانة دنياني أمرو أثير ألا حسام رسل رنيدة
عفوا ما مستقيان من هستام شاديم
شاد يس شادي كان سوري يا راستك اوكي كيترمان هي يس لارين ساكار فريشان قبس عثمان أمانة مسلم يلا who's ready right now شو حاضر استا شاهد يس شاهد تا شاهد حاضر أبي يلا يس عثمان you can start
Sorry, did you say my name?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I read all of it?
From the beginning.
Okay. Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on some days, but on other days, they weren't. On Monday, Annie was at the Washington Monument and Brian was at the National Zoological Park. On Tuesday, they were together at the White House.
Thank you.
Annie.
Thank you. So here is enough. The first part for someone and the second part is for someone else. Okay. Thank you so much, Uthman. Well done. Yes, Saka, go ahead.
شلوني ماما صباشي؟
شلوني بقيمان؟ فرصاص.
Brian and Annie were in.
ساكر جانتا إيرخ من رأي ولا مقطعي دو موتو سرت بخينتو ليرو. ما مستكا بيني؟ يلا.
Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
On Wednesday, and Brian was at a
United States
capital. They were together at the National Air and Space
Museum. يعني
Museum and Thursday.
On Thursday.
Museum on Thursday.
Okay. Then
on Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol and
United States. Okay. United States
Capital and Brian was at the
Washington Monument. That's خوش. Well done, Sakar again. Very good. قبس.
نعم أستاذة. السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on sunny days. On some days, but on other days they weren't.
Okay.
On Monday.
يوم الاثنين.
On Monday. نعم.
لا Monday.
تمام. Annie was at the
Washington
Monument.
تمام.
نعم. And Brian was at the National
هيك الشيء الصوت يعني
Zoological Park.
تمام.
نعم. On Tuesday they were together at the
White House. Thank you قبس. Thank you. خلص حتى آخر. Thank you so much. Well done. I have Ahmed Ayat. Yes, Ahmed.
Yes, hi, teacher.
Hi, Ahmed.
Hi. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday. Sorry. Wednesday. And Brian was at the United States Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
They were together at the National Air and Space Museum on Thursday. On Friday. Annie was at the United States Capitol. And Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Very good, Ahmed. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks for you too.
Rashid Mama Saya.
زور سباس.
Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. On a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were together on Sundays, but on other days they weren't. On Monday, Annie was out.
الخرجان توجهروا أو تلبجاني ترمان كبير موتي آفرين أوها صوت الراس لك دروس كبو إلى سري بردوام نبي وافر.
They weren't on Monday. Annie was at the Washington Monument, and Brian was was at the National Zoological Park on Tuesday. They were together at the White House.
Thank you, Tulkhojgan. Well done. Salim?
Yeah.
Yes, Salim, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Annie was at the National Zoological Park on Wednesday, and Brian was at the United States on Wednesday.
No. Annie was at the National Zoological Park.
Capital. They were
and Brian. Okay. It's okay. They were together.
Together at the National Air
and Space Museum
on Thursday. On Friday, Annie was at the United States Capitol, and Brian was at the Washington Monument.
Washington Monument. Very good, Salim. Well done. Thank you so much. Who didn't read anything for us? I think Akaru. مجموعة كتير معنا هي لقمان و I think عمر ووردة ويوسف و another Yusuf. We have two Yusuf. We have Yusuf Muhammad and Yusuf. Also Zuleikha, Athir, Hussam ورسول.
بلى ماما كمان زليخة.
يلا زليخة, you can start.
Brian and Annie were in Washington, D.C. on a school visit last week. They were in two
groups.
They were together on some
days.
But on their
but on other days.
They
weren't
on
Monday يعني يوم الاثنين. Okay زليخة? On Monday
and was at the
Washington Monument.
And Brian was at the National
Brian was at the
National Zoological Park on Tuesday.
تمام.
They were together at they ولا they
طبعا. They were together. هاي ذا. No. this one is they or this one is that. They were together. إذا Y موجود راح تكون they. بس إذا بس E موجود so هاي the. تمام؟
The
White House.
White House and was at
Thank you زليخة. خلاص حتى I have Ala. Yes, Ala. Ala or Ala, I don't know if it's correct. Ala, come on. يلا Ala.
Annie was Annie.
Annie, تمام.
Annie was at the National
Zoological Park.
Zoological Park on
in Washington DC.
بس الشاشة كلها صارت سوداء لأنها أسود ما عم بشوفش.
والله؟
لا
بس دقيقة حبيبتي. يلا هلا أحسن؟
زبط.
يلا تمام. In Washington DC.
أكمل أنسى من الأول.
يلا من البداية أحسن.
يلا.
Brian and Annie.
Brian and Annie were in
Washington DC.
Washington DC on a school visit last week. They were in two groups. They were